The moon of Thalmerai hung like a wounded pearl over an alien sea. Captain Jace Rowan stood at the edge of the landing ramp, visor polarized against the glare. Before him stretched a glass ocean, millions of razor facets frozen midwave, glittering under a violet sky. Wind howled across the crystalline plain, plucking eerie music from the edges of the frozen waves, like a choir of bottles played by a god. Scout Team Rowan, confirm beacon placement, crackled command in his ear. Yeah. Human was dead, Jace mutada. Rowan, moving. His mission was simple. Hike 6 clicks across the Shards Sea. Plant a sensor beacon, confirm the moon's crustal stability for future mining, and get back to the shuttle. In, out, boring but boring meant alive. His exosuit's mag-sol crunched, delicately, against faceted ridges as he descended. Each step shed glass dust that glittered like stars around his boots. Above, faint auroras rippled in turquoise arcs, sweeping across the broken moon. Jace hummed under his breath, an old Earth song warped by time and distance. Another pretty ball of death, courtesy of the galaxy, he said to himself. At least it's scenic. 3 minutes into the trek, his étude pinged. A night life form. 880 mètres bique d'un ouest, he frowned. This moon was supposed to be empty. Command, I've got a biosignature. Static. He checked his wrist. Atmosphere interference from the glass sea? Maybe. He could turn back, call it in, let some other poor idiot investigate later. Instead, he angled east. Great, he grumbled. Supposed to be a cakewalk. Of course there's a mystery alien. Assez marchid. The shards grew taller and sharper, rising into jagged ridges like frozen surf mid-crash. He moved carefully, reading the terrain, adjusting his weight with a veteran's ease. Humans weren't the strongest or the fastest in the galaxy, but they were annoyingly good at not dying. He crested a glittering ridge and stopped. Below, in a hollow where the glass sea had once surged and then frozen, lay the wreck of a small skimmer craft. Its hull was half buried in shards. Radiant blue coolant leaked from a shattered engine, slowly solidifying into crystalline foam. Leaning against the broken hull was a woman. At least, Jace's brain said woman because it had to call her something. Her skin glowed faintly, not like light shining on a surface, but like something illuminated from within soft opalescent gold with veins of pale teal. Translucent fins fanned from her forearms and cheeks, tattered and chipped. Long, tendril-like hair streamed around her, hovering as if underwater despite the thin wind. Her eyes, when they flicked up to him, were the color of the sea at dawn. She was clutching at a wound along her side. Iridescent blood seeping between her fingers, crystallizing into tiny, delicate shards as it hit the glass ground. Jace's HUD flashed warnings. Unknown pathogen risk, unknown species. Hey, he said softly, forgetting protocol because the sound of her breathing was ragged and wet. Hey, stay with me. She blinked slowly, trying to focus. Who? Man, she whispered, voice resonant, like she was speaking with more than lungs. An echo brushed his mind, like the memory of a tide touching sand. You must go, the others. Already did. Others? He asked. Behind him, somewhere up on the ridge, an engine roared to life. Jace turned, just in time to see a distant shuttle lifting away from the glass sea, angling toward the sky. A tiny silhouette inside gestured wildly, then the hatch sealed. His wrist cum crackled to life mid-static. Rowan, abort and return to the contact compromised. Native asset deemed non-critical. Repeat, non-critical. Do not engage. We'll extract later. He stared after the departing shuttle, jaw clenching. Non-critical, he said slowly. She's bleeding out. Negative. Rowan, pull back. Orders from fleet. Local population classified as Tier 3 non-signatory. Liability, not priority. We have intel to deliver. Jace looked back down at the wounded alien woman. The wind picked up, whistling through the glass spires, scattering blood crystals like jeweled dust around her. Her eyes fluttered, they said. You would not care. There was no accusation in her voice. Just resignation. Jace felt something, hot and ugly, twist in his chest. He remembered a cracked arcology on Europa during the water riots. A little girl's hand slipping from his, the air ran out because some rule somewhere had declared that district non-critical. Humans, apparently, were very good at learning from their scars. Command, he said, voice cold. I'm staying. You are ordered to return. He ripped the module from his wrist and ground it under his heel. The glass beneath cracked with a sharp, satisfying sound. He knelt beside her. Name, he asked. She hesitated. Kaeli. Of the tides. I'm Jace of the Stubborn, he said. You're not dying here, Kaeli. I've got you, and for the first time. Something like surprise and the faintest spark of hope kindled in her luminous eyes. Jace popped the emergency medampule from his belt. Human nanogel thought be useless. Could be poison. Jace, he muttered to himself, you really know how to impress a girl. Here, try this unauthorized experimental biotech on your alien date. He hesitated for exactly 1 heartbeat, then injected the gel near the wound. Praying his suit's medsuite was half as good as the ad. Her body arched, a soft cry escaping her lips. Light flared under her skin like lightning in shallow water, racing along glowing veins. Then, slowly, the bleeding slowed. The jagged, crystalline edges of her wound began to knit together in stuttering fits and starts. Better? He asked. She panted, eyes squeezed shut, then relaxed minutely. The biting cold recedes, she murmured. It feels strange, loud. Human medicine is loud. Yeah, that tracks. We're a loud species. He slid an arm under her knees, another behind her back. She weighed almost nothing, buoyant somehow, like he was holding a body made of soft light and water. A faint scent of ozone and sea salt tickled his nose filters. Where's your people? He asked, starting toward a less jagged path. Gone, she said, looking up at the sky, where a faint silhouette of a battlecruiser lurked in orbit like a hungry shadow. Your empire took them, said our world joined, or drowned. We refused, so they took some of us. Her voice cracked. I escaped. Jace's gut turned to stone. Terran's stellar command. Peacekeepers. He'd worn their patch for 15 years. Maybe they were. Relevance, quickly already hay for the words. Her gaze slid to his shoulder, to the faded patch of a rearing stylized dragon, the emblem of the 3rd Expeditionary Corps. You wear there. Crest, she whispered, hurt flashing across her face. The ones who broke the reef cities. Who took my mother to the sky for experiments. I wasn't there, he said, the truth feeling thin, and I'm not them. Right now, I'm the idiot who stayed. The wind rose into a haunting chorus, Shards singing around them. You defied your show leader, Kaeli said slowly, testing the human concept. For me? For you, he said simply. For what they did. For all of it. She studied him, eyes glimmering with thoughts he couldn't read. Humans are. She searched for a word. Contradiction. Yeah, he sighed. We get that a lot. He reached the base of a towering shard ridge, its facets forming a maze of narrow passages. At its heart, his HUD showed a pocket of thermal irregularity, maybe, a sheltered cavern. Better than the open plain. I'm going to get us covered, then figure out how badly I just ruined my career, he said. Your career, she echoed, tasting the word. Is that important? He said. Right now I am more into not letting you die as a full-time job. Despite pain and fear, one corner of her mouth curved. I am honored by your car échange, Jace of the Stubborn, he snorted. Carful. Human males imprint easily when you flatter them. Imprint, she repeated, amused. Like hatchlings. Exactly like hatchlings. As they entered the maze, he felt the weight of orbiting ships and unseen admirals pressing on him like a storm front. He'd just chosen a wounded alien woman over his orders. For a human, that was the kind of choice that changed wars. The cavern lay deep in the heart of the Shard Ridge, a hollow where some ancient tide had smashed glass waves together until a bubble of space remained. Stalactites of translucent crystal hung above like frozen lightning. Bilumen find, suiting blufang. Jace set Kaeli gently on a smooth outcropping. His suit ran a full scan, projecting an overlay of her physiology fluid-filled channels. Nodal clusters along her spine, an organ like a swirling prism where humans kept their hearts. "Your biology is wild," he murmured. "You're basically a walking light show." She tilted her head. "You are a walking." Sealed sac. No glow. Very opaque. He chuckled. Rude, but accurate. As he worked cleansing the wound, reinforcing his nanogore with makeshift bandages. Checking for internal bleeding, she watched his hands. "You touch with care," she said softly. "That does not fit the stories they told us." "What stories?" "That humans are war-tied. That when you arrive, the water boils and the sky burns. Sometimes we are," he admitted. "But sometimes we plant gardens. Sometimes we paint. Sometimes we stay when we're told to run." She considered this. Why? He thought for a moment. "Because we get to choose what kind of story we are," he said finally. "At least, that's the theory." She fell silent, absorbing that. A distant rumble vibrated through the cavern floor. Jace's HUD flashed. Orbital bombardment, 30 km OFF low yield. The Empire was sterilizing evidence. Cleaning up, a covert operation gone messy. Kaeli flinched, hand splaying against the glass. "They are burning the shallow reefs," she whispered. "Where the lava nurseries were." Jace's throat tightened. "I'm sorry," he said. The words felt small in his mouth, but he meant them with the full weight of his bones. "Why would you be sorry?" Her eyes narrowed. "You did not give the command." "Because my people did," he answered. "And if that doesn't hurt me, too, then I'm not really different from them." Something in her expression softened. "The tides teach," she murmured, "that all are part of the same sea. Some currents are cruel, some gentle, but the water is shared, harm to one. Waves through all. Your religion?" he asked. "We do not call it that. It is knowing." "Would you share knowing, human?" He opened his mouth to ask what she meant when she reached out and pressed her palm to his chest plate, right over his heart. Light unfurled from her skin, a gentle tide that seeped through his armor like fog. Warnings flashed suit integrity, compromise, but then his systems recalibrated, recognizing no physical breach. Instead, something brushed his mind. It felt like stepping into warm shallows after a long, cold march off sand underfoot. Gentle, waves lapping at his ankles, sun on his face. Memories rose unbidden, his sister's laughter, the taste of coffee before dawn on Titan Station. The time he spent an entire night watching Earth as clouds turn peach and gold from orbit. All of it reflected back to him through her presence, tinged with awe. "You are so loud," she breathed. "Your mind is full of storms. But there is beauty in the thunder." He swallowed hard. "You're in my head." "Yes. A tide link, temporary. I share your storms. You share my songs." Images flooded him from her side of the link. Coral towers spiraling into a violet sky, schools of luminous creatures swirling in living constellations, her mother's voice humming an old tidal hymn as they swam between shifting sandbars of shining stone. Then, fire from the sky. Screams in the water. The shadow of a ship with the dragon emblem burning on its hull. He felt her flinch at that memory, pain spiking through the link like a spear. "I'm here," he said hoarsely. "Right now." "I'm not them. I know," she whispered. "I taste difference in you. You are. Estubantid are all of them with a free. Dangerous habit." Despite everything, she smiled. "Does it make you feel good?" "Yeah," he admitted. "It does." She withdrew her hand slowly. The link thinned but did not vanish entirely a faint, warm awareness at the edge of his thoughts. "That was some ritual," he said, trying to recenter himself. "It is older than our cities," Kaeli said. "We use it for binding, for healing, for choosing mates." His brain skipped. "We just did a mate ritual." Her cheeks flushed a deeper gold. "Only first ripple," she said quickly. "Not full binding. Do not panic, human." "Too late," he muttered. Already panicking very quietly. The faint amusement through the link made his own lips twitch. Then his HUD chimed with a new alert. "Yenseoemienje signal encrypted battlescrews. Order. Terminate native asset. Return with data core. Failure equals Camril. Mari imprisonment as a bottom." In small letters was the authorization code. Fleet Admiral Varric Kane, the man who'd given the order at Europa. The man who had broken Kelly's world. Jace stared at the message until the letters blurred. "Jace," Kaeli asked quietly, "what is wrong?" He looked up, jaw set. "Remember how I said I ruined my career? I think I just declared war on my own admiral instead." "They moved at dawn?" Or what passed for dawn on Thalmerai, the sky shifting from bruise purple to muted lilac as the moon. S-Star edged over the horizon, casting long, jagged shadows across the glass sea. Jace had a plan. It was a bad plan. But bad plans were the only kind you could execute in the time between one heartbeat and the next. "The Empire has a hidden lab on this moon," he explained as they picked their way across shimmering ridges. "Off the books, they retrieve and process natives for study. Then, when they're done, they glass the evidence. That's what the bombardments are for." Kelly's hands curled into fists. "Processing," she repeated. "Like fish in nets." "Yeah, and if we can get inside, grab the data and broadcast it, we can prove what they're doing. Maybe turn the Council, the other species, against them." "You said your people believe all are part of the same sea?" "The Empire relies on everyone believing we're separate. That we can hurt some without repercussions." She looked at him, something fierce kindling in her gaze. "You would betray your own for us?" "They stopped being my own when they started acting like monsters," he said. "Besides, humans don't do well with being lied to. We tend to react. How?" He grinned, humor dark. Loudly, they crested a ridge and almost walked into a patrol. A squad of Terran Marines in matte black armor stood in a loose semicircle around a portable scanner, helmets reflecting shards of light. Their captain looked up, visor sweeping across Jace. Rowan, she snapped over external speakers. "You were ordered to." He didn't let her finish. "Just mauvais." Humans weren't the biggest or strongest species. But they'd been building their bodies for war since they first picked up rocks on a savanna. Jace threw himself forward, boots skidding on glass. He slammed his shoulder into the nearest Marine's torso, using his momentum to hurl them into another. As they staggered, he swept his rifle up, firing stun rounds point-blank into the captain's helmet. She dropped, suit sparking. "Kaeli, down!" he shouted. She threw herself to the ground as a Marine opened up with a fletchette cannon. Shards exploded around them, a deadly spray of glass and metal. Jace rolled, feeling impacts ring summer, then fired the leg joints, dropping them. Rowan, stand down, bellowed a sergeant, drawing his sidearm. Jace hesitated, thinking maybe, just maybe, he could talk them. The sergeant swung the muzzle toward Kaeli, Jace's hesitation evaporated. He shot the man in the chest. The battlefield went brief and ugly. Jace fought like a cornered animal. Suit-enhanced reflexes turned vicious. He used the terrain, letting Marines slip on treacherous shards, redirecting their momentum into each other. His HUD calculated angles and force projections, but mostly it was just human instinct duck. Strike, shove, protect. Protecteur. Through it all, he felt flashes of Kaeli fear and fierce resolve echoing in his mind like waves against rocks. One Marine got past his guard, knife flashing in a downward arc. Jace didn't have time to dodge. Kaeli screamed. Light erupted from her, a sudden pulse that rippled through glass and armor alike. The Marine froze mid-lunge, suspended as if trapped in amber. Threads of shimmering energy wrapped around his limbs, knitting into a crystalline cocoon that locked him in place. Did you just freeze him in a crystal bubble? Jace gasped. Her eyes glowed like twin suns. The glass tide answers those who are bound, she said, voice echoing with something older and deeper than herself. You shared your storms. Now my sea shares its teeth. The remaining Marines faltered, stunned. Jace leveled his rifle. Last chance. He shouted, "Walk away." Tell them you didn't find anything. One of them met his gaze. Jace saw fear flicker there, but also deep conditioning, the weight of 1,000 drilled commands. We don't abandon our orders, the Marine said. Funny, Jace said quietly. I was told the same. But here I am, they charged. The fight was short and brutal. When he turned dead, 3 Marines conscious, one encasing glittering, crystal, and to sprawled awkwardly, suits dark and still. Jace stood panting, chest heaving, blood pounding in his ears. Hey, he said hoarsely, turning to Kaeli. You okay? She stepped closer, reaching up to touch his helmet, fingers trembling. You fought your own soul, she whispered. For me, for what's right, he corrected. You just happen to be right and extremely pretty at the same time, which is motivational. Her lips parted. Pretty? Yeah, he said, suddenly aware of how close they were. Like bioluminescent coral fields at night. But, with more attitude. The faint laughter through the link was like a small, warm wave. Human compliments are. Strange, she said. But I think I like them. He shook himself, tearing his gaze from hers. We need to move before someone notices this patrol's gone quiet. Lab's supposed to be 3 clicks north, under a shard formation shaped like a broken crown. She tilted her head, eyes unfocusing as if listening to distant currents. The glass tide remembers feet that tread upon it, she murmured. Yes, I feel cold places. Machinery buried in the deep. You can sense the lab? He asked. Her hand brushed his. A soft, deliberate touch. We are linked, she said. Your knowledge of maps, my world's memory of wounds. Together, we find the scar. He squeezed her fingers gently before letting go. Then let's go carve a new one. The shard formation rose from the glass sea like the ribs of a dead titan. Jagged spires curved inward to form a hollow crown, its center a yawning pit that descended into shadow. Jace and Kaeli reached the edge, wind whipping around them. It goes down far, she said quietly. I feel echoes, pain, screams swallowed by water that is not water. That's probably the elevator, Jace said grimly, pointing to the circular platform nestled against the inner wall, half hidden by shattered glass. Empire loves their dramatic layers. Getting down was the easy part. Jace hotwired the platform with a multi-tool and a soldier's practiced disregard for safety protocols. It shuddered to life, descending into the darkness with a low hum. As descent, the walls shifted from natural glass to carved tunnels, then to metal and light. Holographic displays flickered to life, as their biosigns were detected, projecting status readouts in Old High Terran. Kaeli flinched at one screen that showed a rotating model of her species' anatomy. Leben subject c'est a neural prism high resonance. Potential weaponization, 82%. Her fingers dug into Jace's arm. "We are not weapons," she hissed. "I know," he said softly. "They don't." The platform reached the bottom with a soft chime. A corridor stretched ahead, polished metal, cold white lighting, the faint scent of antiseptic and recycled air. "Stay close," he murmured. They passed observation rooms, holding cells, labs filled with equipment humming with restrained menace. In one chamber, a tank of cloudy fluid glowed faintly, a shadow floating inside. Kaeli stopped, hand pressed to the glass. "That was one of ours," she whispered. "What is left of them?" Jace swallowed bile. "We're going to make sure this place burns," he said, voice tight. "But first, we get proof. We show the galaxy what they've been doing in the dark." They reached the main data core, a circular chamber with a central pillar of pulsating light. Conduits spidered out from it in all directions, carrying secrets to the rest of the lab. Jace slid into motion, fingers dancing across the access console. His suit's Haxwita, not quite legal mod he'd picked up on a smuggler station, spooled up. "Might take a minute," he muttered. "They really don't want people poking around in here." "Then let me help," Kaeli said. She stepped forward, fingers splaying against the side of the data pillar. Light surged, rippling beneath her touch. The faint tide link between them flared. "I hear their whispers," she murmured. "Cold numbers. Cruel patterns. They think themselves distant from what they do. But the sea remembers." Data poured into Jace's feed as her presence somehow bridged the encryption, turning locked gates into open doors. He saw logs, experiment reports, covert mission orders. He saw Kelly's mother's image, a glowing, proud figure in restraints labeled Subject Prime. He saw Admiral Varric Kane's authorization on every page. "This is enough," he said, throat tight. "More than enough. Where will you send it?" "Shuasked." "Everywhere," he said. "The Hanu Protectorate, the Vesh Trade Rings, the Arali Communion, the Empire's rivals. Their allies, their enemies. You drown someone in truth like this, they either learn to swim or they sink. You speak like a tide priest," she said softly. "Truth flows. Lies stagnate. Been a stagnant pond too long," he muttered. "Time to break the dam." He triggered the broadcast. Alarms screamed instantly. "Unauthorized data transfer detected," blared a synthetic voice. "Security lockdown initiated." "All personnel too." The ceiling shook as blast doors began to slide shut. Jace grabbed Kelly's hand. "Time to go." They ran. Corridors flashed red, shutters slamming down behind them. A squad of security drones swooped from a side passage, weapons glowing. Jace dove, rolling behind a support column. "Stay behind cover." "Eshuted." Kaeli bristled. "I am not helpless. Didn't say you were," he grunted, laying down suppressive fire. "Just that I'm very attached to you staying not dead." A drone angled toward her. "Charge building." Kaeli lifted her hands. The glass embedded in the walls shivered, then shattered. Shards whirled into the air, swirling around her in a glittering cyclone. She flung her arms outward. The shard storm blasted into the drones, ripping through their housings like a swarm of razors. They fell smoking to the floor. Jace peeked from cover. "Remind me never to piss you off." Her chest rose and fell, with exertion, eyes blazing. "Remind me to not try your patience," she countered. "You fight like a storm-crazed wave beast. Is that a compliment?" "Yes," she admitted. "Then I accept." They barreled toward the exit platform, alarms wailing, and stepped into a ring of gun barrels. Human Marines. Full tactical gear, 3 dozen at least. And at their center, his armor polished, his posture relaxed, stood Admiral Varric Kane. He was older than Jace remembered from briefings, gray at the temples, lines etched deep around his eyes. But those eyes were still sharp, cold as deep space. "Captain Rowan," the Admiral said mildly. "You've been busy." Jace tightened his grip on his weapon. "Admiral," Kane's gaze slid to Kaeli, "and this must be our little tied subject. Fascinating. I assume you were responsible for that anomalous energy surge. You're even more valuable than we projected." Kelly's lip curled. "You put numbers on agony." "I assign value to assets," Kane corrected. "Pain is incidental. Progress demands sacrifice." Jace felt Kelly's disgust like acid through the link. "You call it progress," Jace said. "I call it butchery," the Admiral sighed. "We are at the knife edge of annihilation, Captain. You've served long enough to know that. The Hanu fleets mass on our borders. The Arali whisper of embargo. Do you think they hesitate to experiment on their enemies? We only survive by being willing to do what others pretend they're above. You're not talking survival," Jace snapped. "You're talking dominance. Survival is dominant," Kane said calmly. "History proves this. Then maybe history needs a rewrite." Kane shook his head, almost regretful. "You were one of my best. It's a shame to waste talent. Stand down. Hand over the native. I'll bury your disobedience. You can tell yourself you tried, and the universe was simply crueler than your conscience." Kelly's fingers brushed his. "A question. Silent." Jay squeezed back en swear en oog. "I'm done," he said. Kane's expression cooled. "Then you're just another problem to remove." He lifted his hand. "Thea." The world became gunfire. Jace tackled Kaeli behind an equipment console as the first volley shredded the air where they'd been standing. Armor-piercing rounds sparked off metal, the impacts a brutal drumbeat. "This is bad," Jace said. "You think?" Kaeli replied, voice tight but steady. "He risks no good cover to many Marines." Kane standing back, letting his soldiers do the work. "We can't fight them head-on," Jace said. "Even with your glass tricks." Through the link, he felt her mind race. Images flashed, raging seas breaking against cliff fortresses, tidal pools swirling, deep trenches pulsing with strange light. "The tide link," she said suddenly. "We only brushed its surface. There is deeper binding, dangerous, but powerful." "Define dangerous," he said, ducking as a round chewed a chunk of metal inches from his head. "We become more than one," she said quickly. "Share not just thoughts, but flows, life, power. If one dies, the other cracks." He stared at her. "You're saying if either of us gets killed, the other goes down too?" "Yes, that seems counterproductive in a war zone. It also multiplies what we are," she said. "Your storms, my sea, we could break them, Jace. Not just here. Everywhere your broadcast reaches, the tide will carry it. But only if we survive this moment." Together, his heart hammered. Every survival instinct screamed no. But he thought of the tank with her broken kin, of her mother in restraints. Ou feu pas? Of a little girl whose hand he'd failed to hold. "I swore I'd never let someone die again because an admiral told me they were non-critical," he said quietly. "Do you trust me?" She asked. He didn't hesitate. "Yes, Asta," she whispered, "no dedons." "Do it." She drew in a breath, eyes going bright enough to hurt. She cupped his face in both hands, forehead almost touching his helmet. "This is second ripple," she said. "No turning back." He managed half a grin. "Wouldn't he be human if I didn't dive into something reckless for someone I just met?" "You did not just meet me," she corrected softly. "Our tides crossed the moment you refused to leave." She pressed her palms to the sides of his helmet. Light poured in, the link exploded. Jace gasped as his sense of self shattered into 1,000 shards and reassembled around something vaster. He felt his body, heavy and solid and bruised, but also felt the glass beneath the floor, the tension in every shard, the echo of distant waves crashing on shores half a world away. Felt Kaeli's awakening with Tekai's merging, distinct but inseparable. Her grief, her hope, her fierce love for her people. His stubbornness, his anger, his desperate yearning to be more than the worst of humanity's choices. They became a single, shared storm. A bullet clipped the console, sending a spray of sparks over them. Without thinking, Jace knew they reached out. Glass rose. The entire lab seemed to inhale. Every screen, every embedded panel, every decorative shard in the walls vibrated, then erupted into motion. A whirling maelstrom of crystal shards, glittering like a galaxy in miniature, swept into the corridor. Marines shouted, stumbling as the ground itself shifted under them. Shards fused into barriers, then spears, then wings that wrapped protectively around Jace and Kaeli. Advance, they said together, voices layered. They stepped from cover. Rounds fired, but glass twisted midair, forming shields that drank the impacts, then flowed forward to trap weapons, encase arms. The Marines fought bravely, but their bullets became pebbles thrown at a tsunami. Jace's tactical instincts guided the storm, directing force, minimizing lethal strikes where possible, disarm, disable, dissuade. Kelly's tide sense amplified it, turning every surface into an ally. Together, they moved like a single organism. Kanwached, Einahoed, as his wounded weapons in terror. Fascinating, he murmured. Truly, humanity bonded with native assets. We could harness this on a grand scale. Jace's lip curled. You're still trying to figure out how to use this, he demanded. After all you've done, of course, Kane said. Moral outrage is a luxury of the unburdened. I carry a species on my back. You carry your ego, Kaeli said, her voice ringing through Jace, amplified. And you drown worlds in it. He drew a pistol, its barrel crackling with energy. You won't sway the council with a single leaked file. I'll spin it as a fabricated attack by our enemies. But if I bring them you a rogue captain and his alien accomplice, they have a neat little story wrapped in a bow. He aimed at Kaeli. Jace felt the shot before it fired, prickling in the air, instinct and tide sense combined. They raised a hand, glass surging into a thick barrier. The pistol spat a beam of crackling blue. It punched through the glass like paper. Time slowed. Jace twisted, shoving Kaeli aside. The beam glanced off his shoulder, tearing through armor and flesh. Heat and pain exploded across their shared senses. They screamed as one, and the scream carried power. The glass storm went supernova. Shards erupted everywhere, crashing down in a roaring cascade that pinned Marines to walls, sealed doors, and shattered the data pillar, sending their already broadcast secrets scattering in a brilliant, unstoppable surge. Jace staggered, clutching his smoking shoulder. Kelly's hands covered his, her own body shaking with shared pain. No, she whispered fiercely. We do not drown here. She pressed her forehead to his, eyes blazing. Her energy poured into him, knitting flesh, stabilizing nerves at a cost. He felt her life force drain, her limbs trembling. Stop, he rasped. You're burning yourself out. If you fall, so do I, she said. We chose this. We rise or sink together. He grabbed her wrists, holding her steady. Through the agony, through the din, he focused on the link. Share the weight, he thought. Not just you, us, he pushed back. His stubborn human vitality scar tissue and adrenaline and sheer unwillingness to quit surged into her. Their energies met, balanced, became something new. The pain dulled to a bearable roar. They straightened as one. Kane stared, For the first time truly unsettled. "What are you?" he demanded. "Something you can't command," they answered. They stepped forward, glass parting for them like water. Kaeli fired again, and again, beams slicing the air. Shards bent the shots away, forming a spiral shield that absorbed the impacts, glowing brighter with each hit. When they reached him, Jace grabbed the pistol and crushed it in his hand. Glass flowing over the weapon and turning it into a harmless, glittering sculpture. "Admiral Varric Kaeli," Jace said, voice steady. "You are under arrest for war crimes against sentient beings. Crimes against the Galactic Convention, and being an absolute bastard." Kaeli laughed, incredulous even now. "You think this will hold?" "That your little rebellion will." Kaeli raised her hand. Glass surged from the floor, wrapping around the Admiral's legs, torso, arms, leaving only his head free. A crystalline cocoon, clear and unyielding. "You will stand before more than your own courts," she said. "You will answer to those you drowned," he sneered. "They are dead, the sea remembers," she replied softly. "So do those left behind." Above them, the structure groaned. Warning screamed about imminent structural failure. The broadcast had triggered overloads, chain reactions racing through the base. "We need to go," Jace said. "Now." "Take him," Kaeli added. "Seriously?" Jace asked. "We're kidnapping my admiral. We do not leave poison in the well," she said. "He faces the tide," Jace sighed. "Fine. I always wanted to see the look on his face when he realizes he is not the biggest shark in the ocean." He hoisted the encased admiral with suit-assisted strength. Together, he and Kaeli ran for the elevator. The lab collapsing around them in a storm of collapsing glass and failing supports. The sky above Thalmarai burned with streaks of fire as debris from the lab rained down, glancing off the upper atmosphere in brief, bright scars. On a hastily commandeered shuttle, its Terran insignia, crudely scratched out, and replaced with Kaeli's swirling tide mark, they hovered above the glass sea. In the hold, the crystalline cocoon-containing Admiral Kaeli sat anchored to the deck. "Eglaredaut, Ivanomu." "You've doomed us all," he spat. "The Council will brand you traitor. The other species will smell blood. Humanity will fracture." Jace leaned against a bulkhead, arm around Kaeli's shoulders. "Maybe," he said. "All-Mip DLL finally see what's being done in their name and decide they don't want to be part of it. The universe doesn't work on hope," Kaeli growled. "It works on force." Kaeli's head rested lightly against Jace's neck, her glow soft now, calm. "Force without heart collapses," she said quietly. "Like waves with no moon." "You mistook fear for respect." "Control for unity." Her fingers slid through Jace's, their hands lacing naturally now, the link between them a warm current. "The data's out," Jace said. "Every major power, every neutral relay, every watchdog network, everyone got a copy. Independence movements, peace coalitions, investigative A is." "You can't bury this?" Kane's jaw clenched. "You'll die for this." "Maybe," Jace said. "But we'll die having actually been human, not just following orders." The Admiral's gaze cut to Kaeli. "And you, tide creature, you think your people will thank you for tying your fate to ours?" "You're betting a monster." Kaeli smiled faintly. "We share a bond," she said. "Mind, heart, tide. I know him. His storms do not break children's reefs. His waves do not delight in drowning. He is what your species could be, Admiral." "That frightens you most." Kaeli fell silent, eye stormy. The shuttle's console chimed. A dozens, 10,000 newsfeeds. Council inquiries. Encrypted messages from human officers and alien leaders alike. Jace glanced at the scrolling chaos. "Looks like we made the front page." Kaeli studied the screens. "Many angry, many afraid, many hopeful. Hope's contagious," Jace said. "Hitarhim, Illuminu." "What now?" He thought for a moment. "Now, He said, "We don't run. Not really. We head for the neutral zones. The Hanyu border? Maybe. Somewhere the Empire's reach is shorter. We hand Kane over to a tribunal that doesn't answer to him. We testify. We tell your people and mine what happened. And we build something new out of the mess. We?" she asked, though he could already feel her answer in the link. He smiled. "Unless you're reconsidering the whole binding our souls together ritual thing." Her fingers tightened around his. "No reconsideration," she said. "Second ripple is choice. Third ripple is future." He raised a brow. "Should I be worried about this third ripple?" She smiled, shy and fierce all at once. "In our custom, those who share third ripple open themselves not just to each other, but to new life. Two young tides. Children who are half one ocean, half another." His mind stumbled. "You mean?" "Not now," she said quickly, cheeks flushing. "We barely escaped drowning. But one day, if sea and stars are kind. Yes, I would like to see what a child of storm and tide looks like." Emotion hit him like a punch. The image rose in his mind unbidden. A small figure with luminous skin and stubborn eyes, laughing as shards of glass rose in tiny arcs around them, held steady by will and wonder. Found family. Not built from orders and ranks, but from choice. "I'd like that too," he said, voice rough. More than anything, she lifted her free hand, gently touching his cheek. "Then hold this hope like a shell to your ear," she whispered. "When the galaxy roars, you will still hear our little tide within it." He leaned in, and she met him halfway. Their first true kiss was soft, careful, two very different anatomies figuring out how to fit, but the link made up for any awkwardness. He tasted salt and light and something sweet like distant rain. She tasted coffee and metal and the quiet steadiness under his chaos. No fireworks, no swelling music. Just a warm, absolute certainty that whatever came next, they would face it together. When they parted, the cockpit chimed again. An incoming transmission, priority channel. Origin, unknown, multi-species coalition node. Jace straightened, thumb hovering over the accept button. "You ready?" he asked. Kelly's hand slid to his chest, over his heart. "The tide is never ready," she said with a small smile. "It simply comes. And the world changes. Very poetic, very human to complain about poetry." He laughed, then hit the button. A holographic projection sprang up alien diplomats. Human officers with stripped insignia, journalists, activists. A is represented by swirling icons. An entire galaxy watching to small figures on a stolen shuttle above a wounded glass moon. Captain Jace Rowan, a Hanyu representative, intoned. "Kaeli of the Tides, the evidence you have provided is substantial. The Empire will deny, of course. They already are," added a human voice dryly. "But the more they shout, the more people ask why." "What do you want?" asked an Arali envoy, crystalline eyes sharp. "You have forced a reckoning. Now you must speak your demand." Jace looked at Kaeli. She looked at him. Through the link, he felt their thoughts align. Not perfectly, never perfectly, but enough. "We want accountability," Jace said. "Not just for Kane, for everyone who signed off on this. Human, alien, whatever. We want protections for worlds like Kelly's. Real ones, with teeth. Joint oversight. Open labs. Sunshine on every dark little project like this." Kaeli lifted her chin. "We want a future where my people are not specimens," she said. "Where children are born to swim free, not to drown in tanks. Where your storms and our tides can meet as equals, not as conqueror and conquered. And we're willing to fight for it," Jace added. "But we'd rather build it." There was a long silence on the line. Then, slowly, one by one, icons blinked affirmative. Not all, not even most, but enough. Then the first "Bueanuse," Let us see how far it reaches. The transmission ended. Jace exhaled. Well, no going back now. Kaeli leaned into him, head on his shoulder. Did you wish to? He thought of Earth, distant and blue. Oefakareredi once thought was everything, of orders obeyed and regretted. He looked at her. No, he said. This is better. Outside, the shuttle banked away from Thalmerai, engines flaring. Behind them, the glass sea caught the light, shimmering like an endless mirror reflecting a human and an alien intertwined, a new story beginning. As stars stretched ahead, Jace laced his fingers with Kaeli's, their link pulsing gently. Hey, he said softly. For the record, if anyone asks why I did all this, why I broke orders, betrayed an admiral, helped start a galactic political storm. Yes, Jace of the Stubborn. He smiled sideways at her. I'll tell them it was because I met someone worth rewriting history with. She considered that eye-shining. Humans, she murmured fondly. Always trying to move the moon. Someone's got to, he replied. Together, wrapped in storm and tide, hope and stubbornness, le vent fury, they flew toward uncertain future, two hearts bound across species. Their bond already, a quiet legend whispering through the networks and tide songs of a waking galaxy. And somewhere in that future, on some yet unseen shore, a child would one day look up at the stars with eyes of sea and sky, knowing that they were born not from conquest, but from courage. A living symbol that, in a universe built on fear and force, humans could choose to be more than monsters. They could choose to love,